Ahoy! There are two important changes that are being made in New World Aeternum that I'd like to talk about today. The first one is a purely negative one for us as the players. You can see the transmog token purse on the current live servers. Of course, you can get transmog tokens from that, so you can change your appearance with that, and it is probably one of the more interesting items that you can get from chest runs these days, or also from expeditions. You can see at the moment it's gathered from various elite supply chests and expedition chests. That will change. The transmog token purse might not be obtainable anymore. On the open beta client, that was the case. There was no drop table for this at all, so it's impossible to get the item. Now, some people are speculating that this may just be an open beta thing, that for some reason they didn't want transmog to drop in the open beta. I don't think that's the case here. I don't think that they would have had to remove the drop tables entirely if they were just trying to temporarily disable it, but rather it would just be not obtainable another way without even showing. I think what's happening here is, as Hartman has said, the big guy up top at Amazon Games, they are trying to find ways to make New World profitable. They need to find ways to make New World profitable because long term it hasn't been profitable. And obviously transmog tokens are a pretty big factor in that. If you need to buy those, that's an extra way of getting revenue for them. Because otherwise, why ever buy a skin? If you can find any good gear in the game that you like in terms of looks, then you can just farm transmog tokens for that. Now, I don't think it's easy or quick to farm transmog tokens. It's something you either already do if you are farming chest runs or expeditions. And if that's not the case, then you're probably also not going to go out of your way just to do that for transmog tokens, given the chance is relatively low. But it's still obviously something that will affect players that are currently doing expeditions or chest runs. And of course, all the new players coming in and all the players playing on fresh start servers will need to do that to some extent if they want to farm late game gear quickly, if they want to just get resources, get things they can sell and so on. So that all being taken away, or not the goal obviously, but the token chance along the way being taken away is a pretty rough hit for them, but again, not entirely surprising. If this is the means in which they can make their money back to a degree that they can keep the game alive, I would be willing to pay the price. I'd be like, yeah, sure, you know, we're not actually losing anything financially. You don't have to get transmog tokens if you don't want to. You can just run with the default gear, and I have not used my transmog tokens. I've just been hoarding them for the one thing that I might want one day, maybe. But still, I think for anyone that is new to the game, this is somewhat of an annoyance at least. Then again, it is worth pointing out that many of the new players coming in won't even know that transmog tokens were ever obtainable for free in the first place. At this point, a quick reminder, if you're enjoying the video so far, consider subscribing and clicking the bell. And if you want to get early trading tips for the expansion and for the fresh start servers, then consider supporting me on Patreon. The other thing here are server announcements, which are done in a very particular way. The naming convention will now be every new world in New World will be a standard world, that's the label, whereas the current standard and fresh start worlds will become legacy worlds. Just from a psychological standpoint here, you can see what's going on there, right? Legacy, when you think of that, you think of like the older version, something in the past. You maybe think or associate this with other games that have legacy, like Legacy, WoW, Legacy, RuneScape, whatever. Just some very, very old servers in general, or very old forms of the game or something that people look back up on. And then the standard is the normal thing you would choose. Just by choosing these labels, doing standard and legacy, rather than, for example, using fresh start for the new worlds, I think they're already establishing a significantly higher population on the standard servers than on the legacy servers. If I am a new player in a game and I read the word legacy for one server option, I'm probably going to avoid that. I'm probably going to expect that that's a world where I can basically never catch up, even though that's not really going to be the case, at least when it comes to gear. I think resources would be a bigger issue. But yeah, there are actually advantages to going on a legacy server in New World due to the economy being a lot more established, so you wouldn't have as much of a hard time finding certain resources on the trading post, for example. But new players won't know that. They will see the standard tag and they will, for the most part, just go for the standard tag. And of course, the system otherwise works like Fresh Start here. Characters from Legacy Worlds will not be able to transfer into the Standard Worlds, but Standard Worlds can transfer into Legacy, and once you transfer to Legacy, you can't go back to a Standard World. You can also transfer into other Standard Worlds, as long as the world is not at capacity, and obviously that goes for new character creation as well. So of course, you will be able to play with your friends on other platforms, on the same world, assuming you choose the right kind of world. You can't access your character on more than one platform. Every character that you create is platform locked, so a PS5 character can't be played on your PC, which is unfortunate. There are console-only worlds, but what's noteworthy here is that these can be PlayStation only or Xbox only, and not both in one world. You can't choose just console only. So that, I think, will take a little bit of incentive away from players to go onto these worlds, at least in smaller regions, if those even get these specific servers. Because I think you'd be aware, if you see PlayStation only, Xbox only, that that's a relatively small player pool compared to being able to play between multiple platforms. I'm glad they didn't do a console-only version where you can play with Xbox and PS5, but not with PC, because I think those would have been significantly more popular in comparison and would have really made it more difficult for the whole game systems to work on the PC player side. PC players can not transfer into these standard console worlds, of course, that makes sense. And there are no plans for now to merge the standard and legacy worlds, but they do say this time this may change in the future depending on the needs of the game. Smart of them to say this. Lesson learned here from Fresh Starts, which they couldn't merge because they weren't allowed to merge Fresh Start based on what they said. So this time that's going to go a little bit different, and especially in smaller regions this may become necessary. PC players can create characters on the new standards world as well, so that's the worlds where you can play with Xbox and PC players. So overall, I would say relatively good news on the server side, not so good news on the Transmog token side, of course. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, clicking the bell, and if you want early trading tips for the new season, then consider supporting me on Patreon, as well as tips for Fresh Start as well, that's also coming. Thanks to all my patrons who already do exactly that, and thank you for watching. Duke Sloth, out.